Did Sony just prove that Xbox is right? Ooh, things are getting spicy, my friends, because Sony may have just proven that Xbox is correct. Now, we're all aware that this week, actually tomorrow, Xbox is going to be sitting down and they're going to have a little conversation about the future of the Xbox business. Now, this means exclusives, titles, and everything else, and we don't fully know what they're going to say, but we kind of know that they're going to be talking about Sea of Thieves likely going to PlayStation. If it looks like Hi-Fi Rush is possibly going to end up on Switch, and Microsoft is going to be giving us a business update about how they are going to be approaching the gaming market going forward. And honestly, I hope we hear about Activision too, because hey, they've got this massive little thing they bought for nearly $70 billion, and we still don't know its Game Pass plans or anything else like that. But to say that messaging that has gone over well would be a bit of an understatement. Everybody has been like up in arms. I'm burning my Xbox. I'm getting rid of this. Phil Spencer has personally offended me. All sorts. It's the internet after all, and it's gone a little bit crazy. However, timing is everything, and Sony may have just done the best thing possible ahead of Microsoft's little event that is happening tomorrow. So Sony held their earnings, and they came out and said, look, our PlayStation sales are not going to expectation. We are cutting forecast by 4 million units. That is 4 million, not 4,000, not 400, not 400,000, but 4 million units from 25 million units for the fiscal year down to 21. That is huge. And hopefully Sony hasn't already pre-ordered all of the CPU time and the plastic and everything else for those 4 million units. Otherwise, they're going to have to find a way to do some demand gen to clear out the back catalog so they're not just sitting in warehouses waiting to be sold. Now, I'm not trying to dump on Sony at the end of the day. Sony, the PlayStation is a fine product, but at the end of the day, right, Sony is a business there to make money, and they do forecasting, and every company gets forecasting wrong. That's why it's called forecasting and not accuracy. Xbox has done it. Every company has tried to forecast something and missed. That is just the way that it is, and here they are doing a course correction. However, this headline came out of the same earnings call. It says Sony wants to improve PlayStation profit margins with more aggressive PC release strategies. That sounds really familiar. It sounds like Sony is just following in the path that Xbox kind of charted out a couple years ago. Remember? It initially started with Xbox bringing their own games to, the Microsoft Store, but they finally said, look, there's no money here. And so they started bringing titles to Steam, and lo and behold, they started making a whole bunch of money. And there was pushback at that time. It was like, that's not an exclusive anymore. But we've all just come to accept that exclusive means anywhere but Nintendo or PlayStation. It's in cloud, it's on PC, it's on Xbox, obviously. You can play it on your mobile device at the end of the day. And so, yeah, it looks like Sony is starting to go down this path, and I don't blame them. They've had a release not too long ago, like just a couple days ago, with Helldivers, and it has done exceptionally well. And all of a sudden, Sony is finding out what Microsoft has learned. It's like, hey, there's money to be made with titles outside the world of console. There's these little things called the PC gamer, and they like to spend money on titles that are fun. And so it looks like Sony is starting to follow this path, and the timing could not be any better. Sure, they're not saying that they're bringing a title over to Xbox, because my God, how sacrilegious would that be if Sony made a title that ran on, well, there it is, MLB The Show. Now, granted, this is slightly different, and somebody will point this out, that this is actually an MLB game, and they are in charge of the asset, and it's not a true Xbox port of a PlayStation. But guys, it is PlayStation Studios building a title that works on Xbox. That means they have the know-how. That means they have the dev kits. That means they know how to do this if they ever so choose to decide to do it, is my point here. Is that I don't think Xbox could have lined up a better headline than what Sony just delivered to them. This is so significant that they're like saying, hey, we're going to miss on console sales because maybe the console sale market is kind of stagnated. And so the way we grow is on PC. Now, it'd be crazy if they came out and said, we're going to do a cloud service. We're going to do Sony Game Pass. Now, they already have some of this stuff, so that's maybe a little too flamboyant, if you will. But the obvious thing here becomes, it's like, look, we put it on PC, we made all this money. My God, if we put it on PC to put it on Xbox, it's not very hard. And then when they need their next growth economic lever, they go, okay, Xbox, here you go. Ching, Helldivers shows up on Xbox, and all of a sudden they'll make more money. And these companies, I have to remind you, are in the business of making money. And so there's more money to be made on software than there is on hardware. Margins on hardware, unless you're Nintendo or Apple, are historically very slim, and you try to make up for it on volume, unless your volume, my friends, is not materializing in a way that you need. I honestly think even if they were going to hit 25 million units, they would still be doing this on Steam. I really do, because again, this creates a flywheel of additional revenue that you didn't have, and it helps you meet your forecasting. It helps make everything better for everybody involved. And at the end of the day, who is the biggest winner? The gamer, because you can choose what games you want to play and where you want to play them. So as we sit down and listen to Uncle Phil and crew start to talk about their exclusive strategies here, and we start to think about the overall narrative of what's happening in the market, and we see how Sony has been following behind what Xbox is doing. Now, I'm not, again, trying to dump on PlayStation, because they are the class leader when it comes to console sales. Like, PlayStation is the undisputed leader of the little box that sits under your TV to play video games. Like, they are the leader. And so Xbox has to do things differently if it wants to overtake that, like spend $70 billion on Activision, as an example. And so they're not encouraged to do these things because, hey, it's like, hey, what we've been doing is working super duper well. Why would we change that up? Well, all of a sudden the market's shifting. And it's like, okay, we got to change things to do super duper well. What worked for Xbox? Let's do that because they've shown it works. And so here's Xbox once again sort of breaking the mold of what we have known traditional gaming to be. And the point I'm trying to make here is that if you're a fan of gaming in general, this breaking down of exclusives is a very good thing. Yeah, it might hurt you a little bit. It's like, I bought an Xbox because I wanted to only play Halo. Guess what? You can still play Halo. You can absolutely still play Halo. It's still there. It's still coming. It's still, to this day, the only console you can get Game Pass with, which is by far the best value. And so, yeah, tomorrow, I keep saying next week, but tomorrow's going to be super interesting because we'll understand what Xbox is going to do. And then it's not implausible to suggest, like, hey, Sony will eventually do this too. They're following Microsoft down the path of PC, which is the low-hanging fruit to grab up a whole bunch of revenue relatively easily. And would they bring it to Xbox? I think it's going to depend on how big that Xbox market share is, right? If the Xbox market share isn't big enough, then maybe they won't ever do it. However, at some point, it will be a topic of consideration. Now, do I think they're going to bring top-tier titles like Spider-Man the day they release? No, but what if they brought some of their old back catalog over to Xbox a year or two after it? Would that anger Sony fans? Maybe. Would it make investors and make Sony a whole bunch of money? It absolutely would. And so, at the end of the day, these companies are about making money. They are finding new ways to make money. They are succeeding at making money, and they're going to continue to do things that succeed at making money so they can continue to do what they enjoy. And yeah, I think Sony just gave Xbox a huge favorable wind of momentum heading into this event because, yes, Xbox fans are angry, but at the end of the day, it's what everybody else is starting to do. So, you know, as we learn more and you want to stay updated on everything happening in the world of Xbox and beyond, make sure to keep it subscribed here because the only BS on this channel is me.